So today for HASS, we are looking at Australia moving to federate. So Australia moving to join as one country rather than all the separate colonies. So Australia hadn't always, like we've discussed in our last two lessons, Australia hasn't always been one. It was originally divided into six states and 2 territories. So prior to 1901, we had 6 colonies, and they were all considered part of Britain and the UK. So before Federation, each colony acted on its own. It had its own laws, its own military, its own postal stamps, immigration. So if you wanted to go from Victoria to South Australia, you had to go through checklists and immigration and paperwork. It's kind of like going from one country to a completely different country. As we saw in a video, the railway lines, so some you had to get off a train and jump onto another train because they had completely different rail systems. So it was very separated, and it's a word that we call segregated. So some people grew frustrated with all the differences, and that's why they wanted Australia to federate and become one country. So reasons why they wanted federation to go ahead. Freer trade, meaning it would be cheaper to sell and buy things within Australia, within the continent. Ease the movement between colonies. So it would be easier to go from, say, South Australia to Victoria and back and forth without all the need for paperwork and everything. A shared defence force. So rather than having a different army and navy and everything in each colony or each state, by putting them all together, we have a larger army and a larger defence force. And so it makes Australia a lot safer because we have more resources to protect the country. Uniformity of services, so making everything the same, and having, say, if we look at now, so electricity, for example, the electricity here in Australia is for the whole of Australia, whereas if we had it for only South Australia, it would be very different in each of the states, which may impact on people. And then the last one was a growing sense of nationalism. So nationalism is when you support your country or your state and you're very proud of it. So being proud to be Australian. And they're the support for moving to federation. So some of the reasons against federation, to become our own nation, it was a severe financial cost. So it did cost quite a bit because beforehand we'd been looking to England for everything. An uneven distribution of power. So some states were looked at to have more power because they had more leaders or more money in their state than other states and other colonies, which would impact on the leading of the whole country. So immigration, so it could lead to more people wanting to come to Australia, which a lot of people didn't want. The loss of colonial identities. So the colonies had been around for over 100 years and had each grown their own identity. So by joining with the other colonies and becoming its own country, they would lose that sense of state identity. And the last one is, being that Australia is so big, the distance between the colonies is huge. So a lot of people said that they didn't want federation to happen because of all the difference, the distance between the colonies. So what I would like you to do today in your HASS or in your homework booklet or working from home booklet, is you're going to look at the reasons explored. Do you think Australia should have federated or not? What is your opinion? And once you have decided yes or no, you are going to give me 3 reasons for your decision and then 3 examples for this as well. And you're going to do this on a persuasive piece of template. You don't need to write the actual persuasive piece of writing, you just need to come up with your argument. And your next task is something that I would like you to do in your HASS booklet. At the moment, we know that we are going through some shutdowns and some lockdowns of Australia with COVID-19. What happened over the weekend and during this week is that the state borders have now been stopped. They've been shut down. It is now, you now can't go from state to state. We can't fly, we can't drive. They're locking down the borders to try and stop the spread of COVID-19. Essentially, we're back to prior to being 1901. The states have been separated. We still have Scott Morrison as our Prime Minister, and he's leading our country, but we have the states separated. What do you think is better? Having Australia joined or having Australia separated? Was federation pointless if we are now just going back to where we started before 1901? What I want you to do is have a think, and then I want you to write a paragraph. So it's between 6 to 8 sentences in your HASS book about your opinion. Do you think it's better to have Australia joined or to have Australia separated? You can use examples from what we've learnt about federation, and you can use examples to what you know about COVID-19 now. This is your opinion. There is no right, there is no wrong. I just want to see what it is that you're thinking, and we can go from there and have a bit of a discussion about it. But that is our task for today.